William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
My name is Margie Wright. I'm the director at Suicide and Crisis Center of North Texas, and I'd like to do a few shout-outs before we get started. I'd like to thank the coalition, the Suicide Prevention Coalition of North Texas, and I especially want to thank John Dornheim, who is the co-chair with me of this coalition, and for all of his really hard work. So a big round of applause for John. I want to tell you who belongs to the coalition, and I'm probably going to have to put on my glasses because I wrote this with my glasses on and now I can't read what I wrote. Suicide and Crisis Center, NAMI, Mental Health America, Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, the Senior Source, DPD, Dallas Police Department Crisis Intervention Services, AIDS Arms, Green Oaks, and Veterans Administration. And in addition to that, I have at least one more group I'd like to recognize, and then you see them running around here in red t-shirts, and they are the Bank of America volunteers. Thank you. They come every year, and first year they just appeared. I think one of their bosses told them to come because she had gone through our survivors group and heard about it, and I didn't know who they were. And since then, of course, if you know me, I put them to work. So they're here, and if you have a chance, say thank you to them for being here. I'd also like to tell you that where the shoes came from. I've heard a lot of, where did you get all these shoes? Well, we get them from everywhere. Board members, word of mouth, people see us hauling in shoes and they say they want to help. We've gotten a lot from law firms, banks, individuals. Commissioner Daniels' group brought some, and then we have some that are donated every year by Closed Circuit and Closed Horse Anonymous, who are resale shops here in town, and I see Irene is here from Closed Circuit today, and thank you. I wanted to tell you too, just housekeeping wise, if you need to know this, I've been asked it several times. There's no restroom on this floor. You have to go up the elevator and it's right over there. There's a man here today who has a Facebook group called Mental Health Awareness and Nutrition. His name is Randall Kling, and maybe you can seek him out after. There he is, okay? And so if you want to talk to him about that, he is here too. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Hondo. I was going to give you his last name, but he said he didn't go by that. He's kind of like Cher. He's Hondo. Hondo is the Public Affairs Director for Cumulus Media, and he's the host of Impact Texas, so he does a lot of community impact shows, and he was our MC last year, and he's here again, and this is a very meaningful thing to him as well. I also want to greet everyone who is here today. Thank you for all of you who care about this cause, and thank you, and I especially want to do a shout out to all those of you who are especially touched by suicide, and that's what today is about, to remember those that we lost to suicide. And one more thank you. Danny is here. Danny is our photographer, and he does our events, and he's helping us today, and he does some great pictures, so run in front of his camera if you can. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Hondo now. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie. How y'all feeling? As Margie said, my name is Hondo. I'm with 96.3 KSCS, 99.5 The Wolf, and with Impact Texas, all 7 of our Cumulus stations. On behalf of Cumulus Broadcasting, thank you all for coming out. This is my 2nd year doing this. This is truly one of the highlights of what I get to do on a weekly basis with Impact Texas. which is on a weekly basis tell stories, not present stats and things like that. With Impact Texas, we spent 30 minutes a week with a nonprofit telling stories. And this, not only because I've been personally affected, but just because of the magnitude here in Dallas County, in Texas, in the United States, where we live in the greatest country in the world, at the alarming rates of suicides in this country with young people, seniors, and our veterans is insane, and it's unacceptable. And so I personally thank every one of y'all for coming out. I truly believe, which I'll get to in a moment, that we have one of the great communicators here today, who I am completely humbled by, that he will be speaking here a little bit later. So I want to get things started. Where is Teresa Daniel? There she is. Please welcome Teresa Daniel, Dallas County Commissioner, and she's going to come up and do a resolution recognizing Suicide Awareness Month.
Thank you very much, and good morning. And yes, all of us have been touched by suicide, so it is at this time that let it be remembered that at a regular meeting of the Commission of the Dallas County, Texas, held on the 6th day of September 2016, whereas suicide is an international public health issue that claims the lives of over 800,000 people worldwide. There's no single cause for suicide. Though closely linked with mental illness, suicide prevention is not exclusively a mental health issue. Suicide is considered the most preventable public health tragedy. And whereas the Dallas County Commissioners Court joins the nation in recognizing suicide as a public health problem and calls for action from government officials on all levels, public health workers, community leaders, residents, and stakeholders in sharing the responsibility of promoting suicide prevention on behalf of those who are suffering in silence. And whereas Suicide Prevention Month is September, National Suicide Prevention Week is September 5th through September the 11th, and World Suicide Prevention Day is September the 10th. This year's theme is Connect, Communicate, Care. Dallas County acknowledges a Suicide Prevention Week and has named September 15th as Dallas Suicide Prevention Awareness Day. And whereas today suicide rates have reached a new high in nearly 30 years, with increases in almost all age, racial, and ethnic categories. However, the most noted increases are for middle-aged women ages 45 through 64, a 63% increase. For young girls aged 10 through 14, the rate tripled. For African American children aged 5 through 11, the rate has doubled. And American Indians had the sharpest increase of all the racial and ethnic groups, 89% for women and 38% for men. And whereas the Greater Dallas Suicide Prevention Coalition is dedicated to reducing the frequency of suicide attempts and deaths, as well as the pain of survivors affected by suicide of loved ones through educational programs, research projects, intervention services, and bereavement services. And whereas the Greater Dallas Suicide Prevention Coalition encourages initiatives based on the goals and activities contained in the National Strategy for Suicide Prevention, Zero Suicide of the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention, and the Way Forward by the Action Alliance's Suicide Attempt Survivor Task Force. And whereas far too many individuals die by suicide each year, and most of these deaths are preventable. More than 500 lives were lost in the Greater Dallas area last year, as seen by the shows. It is important to ensure that individuals, friends, and families have access to the resources they need. Together, we highlight messages of hope for those who are struggling with mental health or suicide thoughts. Suicide is preventable. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize this week as Suicide Prevention Week and encourages all citizens of Dallas County to join the Greater Dallas Suicide Prevention Coalition and community leaders, September 15th at 10 a.m. in the lobby of the Dallas City Hall to promote suicide awareness and prevention. Suicide prevention is everybody's business, and that was done on September the 6th. I read this for a very particular purpose because, first of all, we once again hear just what we're really talking about here. And I know that it does take about 2 minutes to do that, but it is just a little bit of 2 minutes where we slow down enough to think about some of these thoughts. And I very much appreciate the Alliance and all of the people here, community leaders, and just all of the individuals who have taken a moment of their time to recognize. Thank you. I'll just leave it here. I'll leave it to you. There we go. Let's go take our picture with it. Where's Danny? He's going to want to take a picture.
I get goosebumps every time, every single time. So she alluded to suicide is still the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. It's the second leading cause of death among young people, 15. 15. I had to make sure I was reading that right. 15 to 24. Think about that for a moment. Here in Dallas County in 2015, over 500 Texans lost their lives to suicide, as represented by the shoes. But now, as I want to reemphasize here, these shoes are more than just a representation of each life lost in Dallas County in 2015. Each one of these pairs of shoes is a story. Every one. Think about that. Next time you look at these shoes, it's not a number, it's not a statistic, it's a story. This is somebody's life. That's why this is everybody's responsibility. Mental illness is everybody's responsibility all the time. We talked with Anita Foster with the Red Cross about disaster preparedness. Disaster preparedness doesn't happen when a shooting happens in Dallas. It happens on blue sky days. To be prepared for a tornado, to be prepared for things. Talk to family members, talk to your loved ones and your friends and your coworkers about mental illness, about depression, about suicide. Not just when you see it on TV. As I stated a moment ago, I'm here for two reasons. First one is my job, to tell stories. And I take my job very seriously. But I take my job very seriously because of reason number two, and that goes back to the, tell my age here in a moment, early 70s, going to my grandmother's house with my uncle, my brothers, and my cousin. My grandma had this little blue and white transistor radio in Hutchinson, Kansas. And every weekend, we'd sit around her house listening to the Royals and Denny Matthews. She loved the Kansas City Royals. Fast forward to 1994, January 2nd, I get a phone call from my dad. Your grandma just called, and your cousin had taken his life. 18 years old. I play Mr. Funny Guy a lot of times on the air. If anybody's heard me over the last 13 years, man, it's been a great ride with y'all. 2009, they came to me and they said, we want you to take the public affairs show. Okay. So I started researching, doing what I needed to do, try to figure this thing out, right? That's what we did. And I looked to some of what I consider some of the great communicators, great storytellers, Zig Ziglar's, Dale Carnegie, and the man I'm about to introduce right now. This man has been a part of the Texas Rangers for almost 40 years. for the last 21 years as the lead radio voice. And has affected me in ways he doesn't even know. He is truly one of the great communicators in our industry. And, you know, to tell you a quick funny story, on a not funny day, I was at my brother's house playing, I don't know, PlayStation 2 or something like that with my 8-year-old nephew. This is the effect that folks in this business can have for better or worse. This is the effect that folks like you can have on other individuals for better or worse. We're sitting there playing a baseball game with my 8-year-old nephew. My nephew hits the ball. It was a home run. He stands up, drops the controller, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that ball is history." That guy. So it is with great honor that I introduce to you the Baseball Hall of Fame radio voice of your Texas Rangers. Please stand up and give a round of applause for Eric Nadel.
Thanks, Hondo. Not sure I can live up to that introduction. I was sure you were going to tell me a story about falling asleep every night while I was doing my broadcast. That's what I do. I put people to sleep late at night. You probably want to...
apoplectic if you did.
All right.
Now, if you don't know what that means, I encourage you to check out his broadcasts on 105.3 The Fan with his word of the week. And I just used the word of the week. Unfortunately, Matt would be disappointed because I don't have a bell to ring, but...
We got a little triangle when the word of the week gets said. Well, you probably want to know why I'm one of the people speaking to you today. You know, I'm the baseball announcer. Well, it's because so many people I know have either taken their lives or tried to, friends and family, and most recently Rusty Rose, one of the owners of the Texas Rangers back in the 80s and 90s, friend of mine, successful businessman, philanthropist, and the Dallas Morning News obituary just said that he lost a long-time battle with depression. And it bothered me. There didn't seem to be any outcry after this. Nobody seemed to be calling for our finding a way to avoid tragic losses like this, and I started looking for ways to help. I found a number of groups working on the problem. Many of you are associated with some of those groups. I'm going to mention some of them today. Please excuse me if I don't mention yours. Fortunately, there are a lot of them. I read a piece in the Huffington Post shortly after that Michelle Obama wrote, where she addressed the extent of the mental health problem. Roughly 1 in 5 adults, it's more than 4 million Americans, suffer from a diagnosable mental health condition, like anxiety or depression. And these conditions affect people of every age, every background, our kids, our grandparents, our friends, our neighbors. Unfortunately, there is a stigma around mental health that prevent people who need help from getting it. So we need to encourage people to go and get help and convince people that it is not a sign of weakness. We should treat mental health conditions no differently than physical illness or injury. And it starts with encouraging young people to be aware of the signs of mental illness and to seek help if they experience any of those. There are organizations working hard to do this. Michelle Obama co-founded an organization called the Campaign to Change Direction. And here in Texas, we have the grassroots organization OK to Say, which is raising awareness statewide and encouraging people to get help when you need help. And it's important to remember this, and this is what I'm doing here, I guess. Culture change happens faster when leaders and champions step forward to set examples for others to follow. So Campaign to Change Direction has country music star Chris Stapleton as its primary spokesman. And their goal is to make everyone in this country aware of the 5 signs of emotional suffering. Do you all know them? We should all know them. Personality change, agitation, withdrawal, poor self-care, and hopelessness. These 5 signs should be on posters in every school, in every doctor's office in the country. Now, OK to Say has lots of high-profile Texans speaking about the need to ask for help with mental health issues. Really high-profile. George W. Bush, Emmett Smith, Jose Altuve of the Astros, Colby Lewis of the Rangers, Brad Sham, Rhett Miller, and many other musicians. The problem is especially acute, in the arts community. They're saying in these video messages and in ads that the Dallas Morning News is running and other newspapers that if you can get help for a physical illness without any stigma attached, you should be able to get help for mental illnesses as well. Now, there's a need for education starting with school kids. Of the nearly 5 million students in U.S. public schools who show signs of a mental health disorder, 80% will not even receive counseling. And every day, as you know, thousands of teens attempt suicide. School nurses are actually a vital link, often missing in the early intervention process. Students who complain of headaches and stomach aches may actually be showing early signs of anxiety disorder. Studies show that 17% of youths have made plans to commit suicide. Homeless youths have a much, much higher risk. And here we have Focus on Teens, an incredible nonprofit that's providing support for homeless teens in DISD schools, is expanding its program to Fort Worth in 2017. And they provide regular counseling for all these homeless teens and actually all of the students in the schools in which they participate. It's an amazing program. We need mental health screenings as a routine part of the way we care for our school kids. And here in Dallas, we have the Center for Depression Research, which is actually leading the way in developing screening procedures, not only for kids, but for anybody going for a physical exam. And they're searching for better ways to diagnose and treat depression. Obviously, we need to take care of our veterans. The problem is really acute. 20 veterans a day commit suicide. For every soldier we've lost in combat, 25 to 30 take their own lives. Now, there's a nonprofit called Headstrong Project that treats Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, but only in New York, California, and in the Houston area. We need to have projects like this in every state. Veterans need to know that if you have the courage to get help and you get the right help, you can overcome the hidden wounds of war. And of course, here in North Texas, you all probably know, but what percentage of the public knows about Suicide Prevention and Crisis Center? How many people know their phone number? How many people have it in their phones? We all should. 214-828-1000. It should be in everybody's phone. Maybe not for you, but for somebody you know. We need to step up. We need to support these organizations who are doing all this great work. 67% of Texans in a recent poll feel that more state and local tax dollars should be devoted to mental health issues. 67% agree on this, so let's do it. Let's do what we can to make sure that fewer lives are spent in suffering, that fewer lives come to an end as Rusty Roses did. We need to help, and if we lead the way, others will follow. Thanks very much for letting me be a part of this.
One more round of applause for the great Eric Nadell. I want to touch on something he just mentioned real quick, because it segues, which is what we do in radio. We love our segues. It segues into our next speaker. Eric touched on the fact that mental illness, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, all these things that are factors related to what we're dealing with suicide, show no discrimination. It matters not whether you live in Plano, Pleasant Grove, Arlington, or Argyle. It does not matter. But there's something else that doesn't show any discrimination. And it's really simple. I close every Impact, I've done it for a decade now. Every Impact Texas closes with 3 words. Dare to care. Every week, dare to care. And it's real simple. Like you said, put the number in your phone. If you know somebody that you think may be having an issue, talk to them. Speak up. Well, that's their problem. No, it's our issue, and it's preventable. And to that point, I want to welcome up, where's Blake at? Blake Serta, welcome him up to the stage. He is a survivor of his sister's suicide, and he wants to speak to you all today.
Thank you, Hondo. First off, thank you to the Coalition for having me. My name is Blake Serpa, and I grew up in Plano and Frisco. 25 years old. And I've got to preface everything by saying I'm a stuffer. This is the first time I've publicly shared my sister Brittany's story. And as a 25-year-old male, I like to keep things in. So bear with me and help me through the process. Brittany was 3 years younger than me, so I'm 25 now. She'd be 22. I'll kind of rewind the tape a little bit before I get into when she passed away. At 12 years old, it was when we really noticed something was different. Something was going on with Brittany, with behaviors that just didn't seem normal. And then we got into 12, 13, 14. It was not coming home at night at 15 years old, at 16 years old. Me scrambling all the friends from around the neighborhood, going to say, hey, can you come help me find my sister? I don't know where she is. We then had to look for school outside the normal private schools that we were in up in Plano and Frisco. It's, hey, we care about you, Brittany, and I'm speaking for my parents here, which my mother's here in the front row. We care about you, so she went off to boarding school. We didn't know what it looked like because we didn't have any education. We had no idea about mental illness. She spent a year in Vermont at a boarding school. She came back, and in my opinion, it accelerated her process because she was able to learn from all these other people in similar situations. And you looking back, you never know what that did. But I'll share with you about the day that I found out my sister passed away. It was April 5th, 2012. I was a junior at the University of Mississippi, and she was a high school senior, and she was going to be joining me at the University of Mississippi. I was going to be the big brother senior, and she was going to be the freshman. I was going to show her the ropes. Hey, don't take this class, don't take this class, don't ever take an 8 a.m. class because you won't show up. I was so looking forward to that because that's my nature. I went to class that morning. Before that, I had a whole weekend planned. It was my birthday weekend. That was my 21st birthday. My birthday's on April 3rd. This was April 5th, and that weekend, I was going to go to the casino with my dad. We were going to play a little blackjack, and then we were going to go to the Masters. And for me, it doesn't get better than that. Gambling in the Masters. I mean, that is it. So I was really looking forward to it. I went to my class Thursday morning, 9 o'clock, and I got a text message from Brittany. And it said, I, lowercase, uppercase L, lowercase o, uppercase V, you. I love you. But it was real disjointed, and it was odd to me. But not too odd to think anything of it. I pulled out my phone in class, looked at it, put it down, and didn't respond back. I then finished that class, walked into our fraternity house and sat down and had lunch, and got a text message from a friend of Brittany that said, hey, Brittany's acting funny. She's telling me to go away. She was, as I know now, that's isolation. She was isolating. She's telling me things don't matter anymore. She's telling me to go away. And I said, you know what, that's just Brittany. Because she was diagnosed the month prior with bipolar with rapid cycling. That's just Brittany because that's bipolar with rapid cycling. Again, at the time, I didn't know that. So I said, that's just Brittany. About an hour or two later, I got a phone call from my grandfather. Went to voicemail. He called me immediately again. I answered the phone call, and this is something that is burned into me. He goes, Blake, something terrible has happened. I said, what? He said, your sister hung herself. And my first reaction was, is she okay? Is she okay? And he goes, no, she's gone. And it didn't connect to me. It didn't make sense to me. I said, she's gone. What do you mean? He goes, she's gone. So I had an experience where I felt like I was watching myself on that phone call. I think that lasted for about a minute or two. And then I got into doer mode, into older brother mode. And I said, that's it, I'm on my way. It was an 8-hour drive from Oxford, Mississippi to Dallas typically, and that day I made it in about 6 hours and 20 minutes. I ran into my room, and someone was in my room playing a video game, I think, and I said, Brittany's gone, she hung herself, she's dead. And I felt, always looking back, I felt bad that I said that to him, but I had no other way. I wanted to control the situation. I got in the car with my girlfriend at the time, and I didn't say one word on that whole drive to Dallas. I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know how to cope. And I got to our house, and every single friend and family member was sitting in that house because I had 6 hours to get there. They were all sitting in that house supporting us, which was a pretty cool feeling. So we buried Brittany that weekend, and the next couple years for both myself and my mother and father we were very withdrawn. My mother more so, I would say. You know, I cleared all this with her before, so we're good. She's okay with me sharing. She was very withdrawn, and because we didn't know how to cope, and we're learning so much after this, and warning signs. What is a warning sign? Isolation, being withdrawn. And the reason I bring that up is because it's 4 years later now, and I want to honor my mother for being kind of the rock of our family. She sought treatment for PTSD related to my sister's passing. She found my sister, and her strength is not only providing my father and I strength to go seek treatment for ourselves, but she is singing it from the mountaintops. She started a nonprofit to honor my sister, donating proceeds to NAMI Dallas and the Grant Halliburton Foundation, and she's helping more people through helping herself than she even knows. So I want to give a round of applause to my mother. Again, I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak for the first time about Brittany and our family story. I'd like to use it as a launching pad to help young people. Because when you get in a room of 5 guys that are 25 years old in my life, doing life together, it looks like, hey, that guy's got a problem. That guy's jacked up. No, that guy's not jacked up. That guy's suffering from severe depression. Let's wrap our arms around him instead of kicking him in the dirt. So I'll take that on, and again, thank you for having me.
Real quick, before we close, let's do that again. Round of applause for Blake. Takes a lot of courage. Round of applause for the great Eric Nadil. And before I tell you this is pretty cool as well, that will definitely deserve a standing ovation. I may even get out of my chair and clap for this. This is pretty cool, y'all. This is totally off the cuff, but you know, baseball is America's sport, America's pastime, not just father-son, mother-daughter, families. So, communicate with your kids, man. Communicate with your loved one, your spouse, your significant other. And pardon my French, but a hell of a great way to do that is at a Texas Rangers game. We're in the middle of a ridiculous pennant. He may throw a baseball at me if I say that the pennant race is over, but I think it's over. So this is a great time to get out, support the Texas Rangers, but more importantly, by doing that, spending time with your family, talking to your family, put down video games, put down life, outside interference, spend time with your family. Now, that being said, I do want to let y'all know that the shoes, all of these shoes, are going to the Well Community information available at the back of the room. They're going to be donated to those fine folks. So give a round of applause for that. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. I hope I'm here again next year. Till then, go out and make it a great week and dare to care.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.